From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Melissa Strong didn't set out to be a writer. She was an accomplished rock climber in her 20s. In her late 30s and early 40s, she was starting a new chapter, opening and running her own restaurant. If you've been to Estes Park, you might recognize it. It's called Bird and Jim. But in 2017, a devastating accident threw all of her plans into chaos. Melissa's new memoir, Climbing Through, traces not only her physical recovery, but also how building a sense of resilience in one part of your life can help you through a challenge in another part. I interviewed Melissa live on stage in Estes Park recently at the historic Park Theater for an audience of In The NoCo listeners. We can't play the whole conversation today, but I'm excited to share some highlights. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Melissa Strong. I want to start with rock climbing because that's really the through line in your story, Melissa. For those of us who don't climb, help us understand the thrill of it. I mean, what does it feel like when you're clinging to the edge of a rock with one hand and you're, 30 feet in the air?
It's amazing. I mean, it's just gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's such an experience. It's kind of hard to put into words, but especially when I first started rock climbing, I was rope climbing. And as you can imagine, looking around you, it's just nothing but gorgeous scenery. And you're, above the treetops and the wind is blowing and the scenery is just gorgeous. And, your heart is pumping as well with it. And, the nerves are there as well.
You wrote in your book, and this kind of stuck with me, no pain, no gain. That was something you did not like hearing your gym teacher say as a kid, right?
No. Going back to gym class in high school, I was sadly a C gym student, but I had a very dedicated, passionate gym teacher, and that was one of her favorite sayings, no pain, no gain.
It kind of became essential to your success as a climber. So
it became essential in life, really. I mean, because, life is full of challenges and full of pain, and the more we weather, the more we gain.
Jump forward to your late 30s, early 40s. Your climbing career is going well. You've also worked in restaurants. You've worked as a restaurant manager to support yourself. And you get the idea to open your own restaurant. I have to wonder if there was a similar kind of like a thrill factor, like climbing, in the idea of opening your own restaurant.
It's definitely a big roll of the dice. There's no guarantees that you're going to succeed. It was honestly terrifying. So yeah, it is similar to hanging on a rope on a cliff face, wondering how you're going to get to the top. And that's pretty much how I probably felt my opening day.
Well, take us just back to that point in early 2017. The restaurant is just starting to kind of come together. You did a lot of that labor yourself. That included kind of refreshing, redesigning the tables and chairs. And this is an important detail. What kind of look did you want to give to the furniture, and how were you doing that?
Well, it really was head to toe, like floor to ceiling and walls was pine. And that was kind of typical Estes Park cabin look.
Sure.
And so were the tables, and so were the chairs. And
lots of pine.
Lots of pine. But to try to save a few dollars, I did decide that, maybe, we don't have to replace these old tables and chairs. I could figure out something to do to make them hip and look like they would fit into the renovations.
Yeah. And so you were using a kind of unusual technique to do this.
Yes. Eventually, I discovered the Lichtenberg technique, which is basically fractal burning. And you use electricity to burn designs onto wood surfaces with a microwave transformer.
And make some unique patterns.
Yes.
I'm going to jump in here to talk about Melissa's accident. Basically, one day, Melissa was getting ready to use her electrical equipment to decorate the restaurant furniture. And she thought the equipment wasn't connected to a power source. But disastrously, it was. The shock sent 2,000 volts through her body.
So at that point, I had connected myself accidentally to the electric chain. My first thought was, this is exactly what Adam told me not to do, which was my husband. And my second thought was, scream for help. And you can't. After I realized I couldn't scream, I then tried to obviously open my hands and shake one of the leads out, but I couldn't. In fact, the opposite was happening, and the electricity was forcing my grip to tighten more. And as I slowly kind of blinked back into consciousness, I realized I was face down in my driveway. And that's when all of the screams that were trapped inside of me erupted out of me.
How likely is it for someone to survive such a severe electrocution? What did the doctors initially say they could do for you?
The first hospital, the doctors told me that I would only have 4 fingers, my index fingers and my pinkies. My first thoughts were, my first screams were, I don't have hands. And then my next scream was, I'll never climb again. But when climbing was such a part of our lives, so it was definitely part of my identity. And that was one of my first thoughts for sure. I said I would do whatever it took to help someone help me.
In the weeks that followed, Melissa got the help she had hoped for. A team of doctors worked to rebuild her hands and fingers in a series of innovative but sometimes painful procedures. Melissa's hands were so badly damaged that she couldn't open a door or hold a pencil. But despite that, she kept working to open the restaurant.
It was honestly a wonderful distraction to be able to think about the paint colors, the light fixtures, the wallpaper in the bathroom.
I mean, by about a year after the accident, you had enough use of your hands to write things by hand again. You had opened the restaurant. And around that time, you and your husband went back to a favorite spot for your first climb after the accident. 9 years later, your restaurant is thriving and you still climb. How do you think the mindset you learned as a climber helped you through the accident and through the long recovery?
I just think climbing gave me the try hard bit of life. You give it all you have. You throw yourself at a project or a problem. And I really think that I was able to take that strength and apply it to basically the whole accident and getting through.
Melissa Strong is a climber, restaurant owner, and author of the memoir Climbing Through. Melissa, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story tonight.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for being here.
That's an excerpt from my conversation with author Melissa Strong during our live episode taping at the historic Park Theater in Estes Park. Her new memoir about her experience is called Climbing Through. There's a link in our show notes and at KUNC.org. And thanks to everyone who came out for the event. Be sure to keep an eye out for future live shows on the KUNC events page. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.